Do it.
What is up, and welcome to the second episode of the Big Screen Banter podcast. I'm your host, Aydian, joined by our other two co-hosts, Carter and Kyle. If you guys want to say what's up.
What's up, guys? Back for another episode. Happy to be back. Making moves. Keep knocking them out.
Yeah. Excited to be back. This is going to be my favorite weekly activity besides going to the theater.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a lot about theaters in this episode, but before we get to that, what's been up, guys? What have you guys been up to this week?
Myself, absolutely nothing besides sitting in my house and watching movies as it happens to be sometimes. And I wouldn't trade it. It's the best thing you could do.
Paradise. I interviewed for some jobs this week, so that was always engaging, always interesting.
You've been traveling too, right?
Yeah, dude, I had to do an interview on a car ride from the airport.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, they called me back today, so I was like, sweet.
Hey, that's good to hear, man. That's good to hear. Hopefully we get good news from them. This week, much like Kyle, I took the week off work. One of the great things about getting 30 free days of off work a year. So I took the week just to kind of chill out. Been watching Star Wars for the first time after I saw Phantom Menace in theaters, but we'll get more into that when we start talking about what we've been watching this week. But yeah, other than that, just been spending some time with the family. I've hit the theater quite a lot this week, and I've just been watching movies at the house. Other than that, so
Dream
Kyle,
week.
Absolutely. You said you've been watching a lot of movies this week, man. What type of stuff have you been watching?
Yeah.
What have you seen?
Last night was a rewatch of my personal favorite movie of all time, Almost Famous. I don't know if anyone else has seen that. My favorite movie
I haven't,
ever.
but it's on the list.
I could watch that movie every day for the rest of my life, and I'd be satisfied. I also knocked out a couple of the Star Wars movies recently, A New Hope, Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace I saw in theaters, which at terrible audience, but that's a story for another day. But, I mean, yeah, just knocking out some of my favorites, a couple rewatches. That's pretty much it.
Sounds good.
Nice, dude. What about you, Aiden?
All right, so here we go. So I went to see Phantom Menace in theaters on Monday. Actually, did I go see it Monday? I think I saw it Sunday. And then Monday, I went to go see Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man, in theaters with the fam. Took Tuesday. Oh, I was going to lie and say I took Tuesday off. I didn't. I went to a 9:45 showing of Challengers. That was Challengers round 4 for me. I didn't go yesterday, but I did watch. Let me see. What did I watch? I watched Attack of the Clones and I watched Revenge of the Sith yesterday, and I started the Clone Wars TV show on Disney Plus. And then today I went to see Dunkirk in theaters. Actually, got to go see that in RPX over at the Regal. So that was really cool. I missed it when it first came out, so I'm trying to reattack. I definitely do want to see what you guys think about all the re-releases we've been getting this year, but we'll get into that a little bit later in the episode. And then I watched Prom Dates. It's a 2024 release on Hulu. The girl from Ginny and Georgia, the one who plays Ginny, she's in that one. So checked it out. And then I also watched Peak Cinema in The Prince of Egypt.
Ooh. Solid.
Busy week.
Busy week. I've been logging on Letterboxd like no other this week.
Every day.
The best part about watching a movie.
Carter, what about you? What have you gotten to watch on the planes on your traveling, man?
Oh gosh, I watched American Fiction. I was trying to see that beginning of this year. I couldn't get around to it, but I watched American Fiction. Was interested, and then that ending, dude. That ending killed it for me.
Yeah, American Fiction was like, I think it was. I haven't seen The Zone of Interest yet, but I think it was, from what I have seen, my least favorite of the Best Picture nominees from last year.
I liked it more than Anatomy of a Fall, personally, but I seem to be in the minority of thinking Anatomy of a Fall isn't, like, fantastic. I think it's good.
I love
Nothing
that movie.
it.
I absolutely adored the Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah.
The only one I haven't seen is The Zone of Interest. And now that it's on digital, I'm just being lazy. It's literally on streaming, and I haven't clicked
on it. Of those Best Picture nominees, I feel like it's probably one of the more like consistent years of Best Picture nominees. Only one I didn't really mess with was Maestro. I thought that
Yeah,
movie was
Maestro was
like I
mediocre.
could not get into that movie for a single second.
Me either. But Poor Things was my contender to win. But I think they were all pretty great. Like I think that I know I had Barbie, Poor Things, Anatomy of a Fall, and Oppenheimer. They were all sitting at or above a 4.5 for me. So I don't think even Killers of the Flower Moon I think was at a 4.5. So I didn't really care. I didn't really care
it was
about that
just
one at
such a
all.
deep year. I think I had
Yeah.
Past Lives as my top movie. I don't know what it was. That movie is just
Past Lives is a good
I
fucking
love
movie.
that
though.
movie.
Past Lives is
Dude,
so
I
good.
need to watch it. I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen Past
It's
Lives?
so good.
Dude, I
You
watched
haven't-
like half
but-
the Oscar nominees, and then I
This
kept
is
getting
also
distracted.
this is also the same man who hasn't seen Poor Things yet, and I've been telling him for I don't know like 3 months at this point that he needs to just sit down, spend the 2 hours and some change and watch it, and he still has not done it. So I would just like to put that out there.
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen Zone of Interest or Maestro either.
You're not missing.
Maestro,
You're
you
not
can
missing
save.
anything with
Maestro,
Maestro.
you
You
can
just you
save.
can just skip that.
The zone of interest I think is a must watch. The Zone of Interest
Okay.
I saw in theaters and it was like it I don't know, it's one of those movies that like you really have trouble like describing how it makes you feel after, but it's just such a horrifying movie and it's
The
so
Zone
good.
of Interest won Best Sound Design too, didn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it won Best Sound Design, which if it didn't off the top of my head, it should have because it's one of the most horrifying sounding movies I have ever seen. It
Like a horror without being a horror.
Yeah, it genuinely is scary.
Oh man,
That's what I hear. Oof. But yeah, I watched American Fiction. I mean, like I mentioned, I was actually really enjoying it. I thought that the satire was really funny. It was really working for me up until the end, and then the ending just left such a sour taste in my mouth that it just like tanked my score by like at least a star.
Yeah, I saw it in
I was like,
theaters, and I think it was the same for me. It was like initially, I think I had it at like a 4, and then by the end of it, it had dropped to a 3 because I was like, "What was that ending?"
Yeah, I think I have it out of 4 myself.
So
I mean, I
unnecessary,
like
yeah.
the script.
Ow.
I think it's a fantastic script.
Mhm.
Won Best Adapted Screenplay. And I mean, it was. I don't think it was anything special, but still good.
Yeah, I can
At the
give
very
you
least.
that. It wasn't horrendous. I think I just was I think an ending for me will really affect the way that I rate the movie, and that would just
Sure.
kind of that ending just it tanked it for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What else? What
No,
else have you been
I
watching,
agree.
Carter?
So right after American Fiction, I turned on. So been rewatching Planet of the Apes, the trilogy from 2010s, because I saw Kingdom today. So I rewatched Rise, Dawn, and War, and I was trying to rewatch some more stuff, trying to watch more, but couldn't get around to it. So just those. Kind of a light week, I guess, but that's all right.
Polar opposites this week, huh? Because I just been
Yeah,
I just
dude,
been watching my life away this week.
I'm envious, but I got some good pickups in Kansas at like them secondhand stores. I'm so hyped.
Oh, what type of stuff did you pick up, man?
So I have never seen the Ben Affleck Daredevil director's cut, and I saw that for $5. Grabbed it because I hear it's a totally different movie, and I was like, all right, I gotta check that out at some point. Especially if like him and Elektra are gonna be in Deadpool and Wolverine. I grabbed Freddy vs. Jason, which is like one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies like of all time. I adore that movie. It's just so fun. So I picked that up. I picked up Loki season 1 steelbook actually for $15, and it's like pristine, dude. It's like unopened. It was crazy.
I keep eyeing the Obi-Wan Kenobi, but $45.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Those Disney Plus steelbook prices are abominable. I picked up Gran Torino Blu-ray, Uncut Gems Blu-ray, No Country for Old Men, and The Dark Knight Returns animated movie deluxe. So all that for like $40. I was so hyped.
Yeah, that's a great haul.
I know.
I actually think that this is one of my lighter weeks. I ordered Lady Bird because I've been waiting on Lady Bird for forever. So I got Lady Bird. I bought Revenge of the Sith on Blu-ray. I got The Prince of Egypt on DVD in the little $5 DVD bin at Walmart. And yeah, I think that's actually. Oh, and then I got a bunch of different Star Wars steelbooks from my local movie store. They were selling them for like $5 a pop. So I got which ones did I pick up this week? I got The Force Awakens, Attack of the Clones, and then I already had A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. I was looking for Revenge of the Sith and Phantom Menace, but both of those, no matter where you look, are selling for like $60 to $70. I'll eventually want to finish the collection of Star Wars steelbooks, so I'll get them. But today was not that. This week was just not that week for me.
Yeah, seriously. Well, yeah, a good week for movies, at least for me. I mean, not a lot down, but this next week should pick up a little bit, so I'm hoping.
Yeah, there are quite a few that I want to get through this week, but it's also my long week at work when I go back on one day. Yeah, it's a 5-day week instead of my normal. Because I work 1 week I work 5 days a week. The other week I work 2. So I only took 2 days off this week instead of wasting an entire week. But then I go back into a long week. But sometimes I can smash out like a movie or two depending on where I'm at work. So it's not too bad.
Dude, that's a gig.
Yeah.
That was my, had a remote job for like a year and a half. Dude, that thing was like, I played so much Resident Evil and Call of Duty during those days, bro. It's crazy. I beat Resident Evil 3 in a shift. That's when I knew I had a problem, bro. But that's another story.
Oh yeah, you were playing it.
Yeah, nothing got done that day. But, all right. Sweet. Well, yeah, it sounds like a good week for everybody.
Very good week for movies. Very good week. All right, so let's just we're gonna do some more introduction, but in a different manner in this episode. We're gonna attack what got us into cinema, why we like the theaters, and some of our gateway movies. Not gateway drugs, because we don't do those around here, but gateway movies for sure. So whichever one of you wants to take it away, tell us some of the movies that got you into movies.
Yeah, I'll start. I guess I would just say kind of your basics, like Marvel, like we were talking about Star Wars, and just like overall big blockbusters or whatnot. I feel like for me, growing up with those being the only movies I really watched, it kind of allowed me as I got older to see like if these movies are like this, what more can there be out there? Is there something bigger? Are there more movies like this but different at the same time? And I guess that just allowed me to discover a bigger world seeing these big blockbusters.
What about you, Carter? What films got you into movies?
So, not ironically, if you are listening to this, you won't be able to see it, but behind me is an entire shrine to Marvel and DC and superheroes. Like, there's the Daredevil poster from the Netflix series, of course. I'm not a monster. Got the Iron Man Endgame poster and Logan and a billion action figures and stuff. So the first movie I remember watching in the theaters was the first Iron Man in 2008. I was like 7, probably. I was like 6 or 7, and my dad took me like opening night because for some reason, like he was really interested. He had no idea who Iron Man was. The only thing that we knew about Iron Man was the animated series we used to watch on the TV. I don't remember if you guys ever watched that or anything. Yeah, it was pretty good. At least it was good when I was like 6, 7, so I'm not sure now. But yeah, that was the first movie I remember watching, and like just like coming out of it, not only like the audience reaction to like when Nick Fury showed up, I was like, I have no idea who this guy is, but everyone just kind of like immediately like locked in when he showed up at the end credits, and then I was like, okay, like this is different, and just like the vibe, even though I was like 6, 7, I could feel like something different watching that compared to like watching, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of what I would have watched at home. I mean, a lot of Star Wars growing up, like you, Kyle, like Star Wars, Marvel. Yeah. Those are like super formative to me because, I mean, like I grew up like right in that peak. Like I was in high school when Endgame came out, and that was like the time to be alive.
Yeah.
That was the time to be a Marvel fan. Like I had people come up in the halls of school and like ask me if I was excited for Endgame or like ask me my theories, which was like so weird because for the longest time you've seen like movies and TV like, oh, if you read comic books, if you're into that stuff, then you're a nerd. Like, you'll get bullied. And it was, like, super weird where it just, like, the zeitgeist, like, flipped to where it's like, okay, now people will come up and ask you, like, it broke through, like, the medium into everything. And so I mean, long story short, it was the first Iron Man, first movie I remember watching in theaters. Got me super into movies, and then the Star Wars, the original trilogy, especially. Growing up, my brother loved the prequels, but my favorite was Return of the Jedi. So those movies, just back to back,
I
really
feel,
inspired me.
and I feel like that's where, as this new generation of moviegoers start to like come in, you're going to see more and more of that, probably, like people who use these Marvel movies as kind of like a gateway. And I think it
Yeah,
goes back to really like part of the thing that Martin Scorsese said with the like comic book movies are like carnival rides or whatever. And I don't know, I've never really looked at that as like a bad thing. Like I've always just thought that's kind of like you get to go see these movies, you get to have fun. Then in some cases, like ourselves, we'll discover a bigger world out there. And these movies will allow us to it have a podcast like we do now after we
yeah,
discovered that bigger world.
for sure, for sure. What about you, Aiden? What got you into it?
All right, so unlike you nerds, I was I was not a Star Wars guy to begin with. I literally just started watching the Star Wars films and TV shows this year. But I think that the first movie that I like genuinely remember that I was like critiquing or like considering peak cinema and like rewatching was, like I said, The Prince of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that for the first time when I was probably like 4, and most kids they're watching like SpongeBob or like Thomas the Train, Blue's Clues. These are all things that I definitely did watch, but I was watching The Prince of Egypt on par every week, almost every day for I don't know 10 years probably. It was just consistent. I still to this day at my big age of 25 know all of the songs on the soundtrack, and it is a peak soundtrack. There's nothing about The Prince of Egypt that I don't absolutely love. No matter how, like, the animation in The Prince of Egypt was so beyond its time for me that I can't even describe how much I absolutely love the film. Now, Marvel was another thing that kind of guided me into being in the cinema, especially. Because much like you, Carter, I went to see the first Iron Man in theaters, and then I think I saw all 3 of the Iron Mans in theaters. Then I
Yeah,
saw all of the Avengers movies in theaters. I saw Black Widow in theaters. Much of the main chunk of the Marvel Cinematic Universe phases 1 through 3, I saw in the cinema because those were genuine through and through experiences.
mm-hmm.
And it wasn't one of those things back then where it was like, oh, I'll just wait for it to come to digital. I didn't really have digital money, but I
Yeah,
did have a cousin that really liked going to the movies. And so every time a new one came out, we'd go ask our grandparents for some money to go to the movies. And that's what we would do. We would go to the movies and get a drink. No popcorn. Popcorn's too expensive. And that would be what we did. And I saw a lot of movies, I think, through my cousin as well, because he's a big film buff. He's actually a theater major when he was in college, and he wants to be a director. So he's seen probably double the amount of movies that I have. But there were a few that like we went to see together that really coasted me into becoming the movie lover I am now. We saw Moonlight in theaters, and I think that was the first one where I sat there and I was like, so it doesn't always have to be like a big blockbuster film for it to be an incredible thing to see in the theater. And that's when I kind of started wanting to go see anything and everything I could see in the theaters. And now if you ask my wife, that's all I do, and she's probably right.
And I think another little franchise I'll add in there for a gateway or is Pixar.
Yeah.
And like just like because those like Pixar films at their best are like genuinely good movies.
Yeah.
Like those are great movies. And I guess like seeing those as a little kid, like I remember seeing Up in theaters, at which side note was like an odd experience because I was like right in the front and I had to, as a little kid, had to look
Like this.
straight up at the screen the entire time. But I remember being sad watching that movie. And I don't think like you get to realize with movies like that at a certain age, like how good they actually are. and that they are genuinely considered some of the best animated movies ever made.
Yep.
And I guess just in a sense, rediscovering those movies and getting to watch them again has also provided for another aspect of appreciation for movies.
Yeah. Definitely agree. I think that even as an adult, there were some animated movies that I saw in theaters that kind of were like, oh my god, animation is still peak. Like I saw the original Inside Out in theaters.
Yeah,
so good, so good. And I'm gonna go see the second Inside Out. Guess what?
Yeah, I'm excited
in
for the
theaters.
second.
I'm gonna go see it in theaters, probably opening night. There's gonna be a bunch of children there. I'm gonna be irritated as all get out, but I'm still gonna watch it. You know, and I mean, even I took my daughter to go see like the Paw Patrol movie, and it was so cool to see a bunch of little kids just sitting in movie theater chairs, completely locked into what was going on.
Yeah.
That was so nice. That was such a nice thing for me to experience. So I think that just seeing other kids enjoy that and seeing my daughter enjoy that kind of made me feel like maybe cinema won't die after all, you know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think for me at least, I do like appreciate a lot of animation, but I don't really find myself going back to rewatch a ton of them. Like, it's so hard for me to like articulate, like, I still care and I still watch them, but like, you know, it's like Into the Spider-Verse I'll rewatch time and time again.
Yeah.
I love like Puss in Boots too. I love that movie. I loved like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, like Megamind. I don't know why, but like the Toy Story is like a big one that all my friends are like, dude, it's so good. I liked it, but I never like got into it as like classic. For me, I don't know why, but I always just kind of gravitated towards my dad's movie taste, which I think I mentioned this like last podcast. Mom would go out of town, he'd show us like Terminator, Rambo, everything like that. So like when I was like 7, my friends were like, dude, you got to check out like Toy Story 3 is going to be so great. And I was like, where's Rambo? Like that's what I was thinking. It's just like stuff like that. Like my dad turned me at a young age, but I definitely like still appreciate and respect animation, and part of me is like, oh, I wish I like had the drive, I guess, to go and like see more animated movies in theaters. But I don't know. It's just I've always kind of been like that. But
I feel like I have my like select few that I always go back and revisit. Like you said, the Spider-Verse movies, like Across the Spider-Verse is probably already one of my most rewatched movies ever. I could literally just turn that movie on at any second of the day and sit through it. But I still have like my select few, like WALL-E. I think WALL-E is like literally one of the greatest animated movies ever. It's just a select few of them that, you know, but there's others that I'll never go back to.
I've never seen this Spider-Verse movie.
That is insane. That is insane.
And the crazy thing is I own them. Like, I have them. I have Across the Spider-Verse on Steelbook. And then I've got Into the Spider-Verse. And it's just one of those things where, like, I was hating on Carter for not watching Poor Things, but I have them. And I look at them when I'm trying to find a movie to watch. And every time I just don't put them in the DVD player. And I don't know what it is, because everybody I know is like, the Spider-Verse movies are the best Spider-Man movies. They're like the greatest animated movies of all time. And I keep trying to get to it, but then I'm terrified that I'm going to get to it and I'm going to hate it. And then I'm going to be one of those people that I hate, that hates a movie that everyone else loves. Like, it's like, I'm scared. I'm scared. I've got such high expectations that I'm scared.
I really do think, like we were talking about last week, those are two movies that I think are impossible to hate. Like, I really feel like they're so hard to dislike. And if you do dislike it, I feel like you're actively going into that movie like, oh my god, I can't wait to hate this movie. Yeah.
Dude. So when I for some reason I got like I was in high school when Into the Spider-Verse came out, and I got to see it like 3 weeks early, like randomly. I don't know how. And I walked out of it and I was like, that movie like was not good. For some reason, like I walked out and I was like, the animation was good, but like I just had such a problem with like anyone can wear the mask, because I was like so ingrained in like Peter Parker. And I mean, rewatching it now, I think it's easily like top 3 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, my thoughts on every Spider-Man character that's not Miles Morales or Peter Parker aside. There's too many of them. But like, dude,
There's
and
a
then
lot
I
of
went and
them.
saw. There's too many of them. They got to cut back. But on Across the Spider-Verse, I like Into the Spider-Verse better, man. I think the ending of Across the Spider-Verse, like we were talking about, it tanks it for me, dude. I mean, I can't go into spoilers because Aiden hasn't seen it, but like the last like 10 to 15
Dog
minutes of
water.
Across the Spider-Verse, like just I think it just goes on too long.
I think for me, I get like I know that's a lot of like what people don't like about it is like how it almost doesn't feel like a complete movie.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, my honest opinion, it's I think the greatest animated movie I've seen, and I've seen probably animation's probably my most like watched genre.
Okay.
But I just like watching that on the big screen, seeing it in Dolby. I was smack dab in the middle of the theater. It was like what that
Nice.
movie did with animation, I think was just like it's just levels ahead of anything else that I've seen. It's just like how I describe it is it literally feels like the animators and the just the filmmakers, anyone that worked on it in general was just like flexing on the theater with like every single
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah, I agree. The animation in that is stellar. My only issue, I don't have any issue with the animation. My only issue is just like a little bit of pacing and just like that last like 15 minutes. I don't know, like something about it, man. I just think it goes on too long, and I'll just leave it there because I don't think it's one of those movies that I should spoil for Aiden in good conscience.
Yeah, especially with the third one probably next year.
You shouldn't spoil it. But I'm gonna watch it soon, I promise. Within the next 3 podcast episodes, we'll be able to do a Spider-Man ranked because I swear I will watch them. Because they're the only ones I haven't seen. I waited a while to go see The Amazing Spider-Man, but then I've been watching that one in theaters. I see The Amazing Spider-Man 2 on Monday. So we're ready for that. It's just there's just something about them. If they would just release those with the rest of the Spidey Monday movies, we'd be fine. But they decided not to.
Dude, if they released them on days that weren't Monday or at my theater, I guess
You live in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, bro.
Dude, they showed Late Night with the Devil at my theater, and they showed like When Evil Lurks for no reason. They'll show like the most outrageously random horror movies
Having
in
When
my
Evil
theater.
Lurks is crazy.
Dude, I know. We were the only people there in the theater.
Crazy.
But then I guess the next showing was packed, from what I heard. But yeah, it was nuts, dude.
All right, so that's a perfect segue. Let's talk about the cinema experience. Let's talk about what it feels like to be in the theater now and when you were a kid or whenever you got into movies.
I mean, I would start by saying it is completely different going to the movies now when I can understand fully what I'm watching rather than going when I'm a kid, especially now that I'm able to see more movies in the theaters as where far back if I wanted to watch a movie and my mom thought it wasn't a good idea, she would say, no, you're not watching that movie. And I would have to accept that. But now that I have free range to watch what I want to, it's just, most recently with Challengers, just, going to a movie theater, seeing a new movie, getting to experience it. I had my friends with me. I showed it to them. They weren't interested in it, but, drag people into the movie theater, show them stuff they might not be interested in. Good experience. That's all you can really ask for. But, I mean, sometimes it winds up being a life-changing experience. It's just all about what the movie is, what it can be. That makes it exciting going to the theaters.
For sure. I agree. I think, like, when you said life-changing experience, I think that every person that is, like, really invested in filmmaking, whether that's someone in the filmmaking industry or someone who just loves talking about movies like us, like, has one of those, like, life-changing experiences.
Yeah.
And more often than not, especially if they're above the age of, like, 16, 17, it's in the theater because I mean,
Mhm.
up until really like COVID, that was like where you had to watch movies. Like when I was younger, I remember having to like if I didn't see a movie, like and my dad didn't have like the VHS, like we were screwed. Like I could hope it would come on like cable, but and then I'd see like half of it. You know, that was it. But
They'll put it on. They'll put it on DVD or VHS eventually. It'll be
yeah,
at
seriously,
Blockbuster.
they'll get to it, dude. I miss Blockbuster so much.
Me too.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's much like the what the other two said. I genuinely just love being ass in seat at a movie theater. There's something
Mhm.
about, I mean, even if you're just sitting in standard, it's a normal size movie theater screen. There's something that is so much better about being just butt in seat, whether it reclines or doesn't recline, eating popcorn that's probably stale, like just having a good old time at the movie theater, especially dragging other people asses in seats no matter what. I've got a buddy here. He likes movies, but he doesn't like movies like I like movies. And I had to make him get Regal Unlimited and AMC A-List because every time I go to a movie, he's going to the movie. What do you mean you don't want to come?
Mhm.
We're all going. So we're all gonna be there. And there are some that I have made full-fledged like fan experiences. Godzilla X Kong, when that came out, I think there was like 15 of us. And then when what was it? When Civil War came out, there was me, my buddy and his wife, my buddy that I always make come, and like 3 other people that came with us to see that, I think. And it's just one of those things where you want so many people to see movies that you are
Mhm.
interested in, and then you get to movies that are like challengers for me. And we learned how much I love that film last episode. I've seen it 3 times, and every time I saw it with someone. Well, I've seen it 4 times, and every time I saw it, I've seen it with someone different, except for the 4th time because I couldn't convince anybody to get up at 9:45 to go to the movies. But
I
I mean,
think
it's stuff like that, like Interstellar. Seeing
Mhm.
Interstellar in theaters, crazy. That was probably one of my life-changing experiences. Seeing Dunkirk in theaters today, another one that was probably life-changing. I wouldn't say Phantom Menace was life-changing, but it felt like it. Like it felt like it
Mhm.
guided me to being the nerd that you guys were when you were kids, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's just something about showing other people the movie too, like you were talking about, just showing people movies, try at least, even if they're not interested in watching movies like we made, just showing it to them, trying to give them an experience that you had yourself. And I think that's also like a humbling side of it, is if you're like, yo, watch this movie changed my life. You show it to your friends, they're like, yeah,
It
that
was
was
all right.
good. Yeah, it was okay. But I
Oh,
even just, I guess, outside of the movie, sometimes you're hanging out with your buddies, just throw on a movie on TV, everyone chill back, watch it, and just something about watching movies with other people, like, it's just awesome. It's just fun.
Agreed. There are some TV shows that are even like that. Like me and my buddies were last time on Cinco de Mayo. Of course, we're drinking margaritas, having a good old time. We ordered Mexican. We turned Invincible on the TV,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all locked in like little kids watching SpongeBob on Invincible. And it was such a good time.
it's the life.
But you
man.
also do have those movies too that it's like you have to experience by yourself. It's like your movie that you hold personal. And what I was talking about earlier with my favorite movie of all time, Almost Famous, that's a movie that I like. I don't know if I could like throw it on around other people, just because like I wouldn't want to hear anything negative about that
That's
movie.
how I am. That's
Like
how I
that,
am.
like that is my movie,
Yep.
and I need my opinion on that movie. I need to sit in my room and just sulk in that movie.
I think that is like that's a really interesting concept when you think about it, because I've got like 5 favorite movies. And of those 5 favorite movies, there are 3 that I wouldn't just be like, oh yeah, we can all watch this movie. Like The Secret Life of Bees. Most people have either never seen it or they see it and they're like, oh, it's like a 3-star movie. And then I want to fight you, because why would you ever say that? Why would you ever not say that movie's a 5-star movie? You're wrong. You're wrong. I don't care what your opinion is. This is the one time where it doesn't matter. like, So like there are some movies definitely that I think that like, oh, if it ever got a re-release in theaters, I would be there, and it would be the one time where I wouldn't be in the middle. I'd sit in the dead back like this, just like making sure that no one saw me or bothered me or needed to ask any sort of questions because something confused them in the entirety of the film.
And I feel like that's not like gatekeeping the movie. I feel like everybody has that with like different things, whether it be like a song or whatever, a book. Everybody just has that one thing that they like to hold to themselves and make it like their personal. I guess, like, what am I looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's just their spot. It's their place to be.
Yeah.
It's like, it's something that's like so special to you. It like I feel like such a geek. It's like it transcends like criticism to you.
Yeah.
Like for me, that's like superhero movies. A lot of them very easy to critique. I'll be the first to say it. A few of them are perfect in my mind. A lot of them aren't perfect, right? I mean, obviously, there's like so much discourse around them nowadays. It makes it nearly insufferable to talk about them at any time. But like to me, I'm like, okay, like these got me into like film. Like even if I graduate film school, I tank, I get addicted to drugs, and I die alone on the creek. I have no idea. Like that
escalated
it got me
so
into
quickly.
that, man. I know, dude. I have no idea where I was going with that analogy. But like, even if nothing happens with like a potential career or anything, I'll still like have those like special to me because it like got me into like my favorite thing of all time.
Yeah,
and I will not get addicted to drugs or die at a creek.
Let's not do either of those. I literally already said we don't do drugs in this podcast.
I know. I'm sorry. My bad.
But I feel like now too, you're starting to see like more people, whether it be like on TikTok, on YouTube, whatever, all around social media, starting to just like flip on these like past great comic book movies just because the new ones are bad. And it like I guess I don't know if it like the new ones being bad takes away from their appreciation. I guess I'm mainly talking about the MCU because we know how overall inconsistent they've been. But like I don't know if it takes away from their past experiences with the older movies, but I don't know. There's some of those movies that my opinion on them, it'll just never be able to be changed.
Oh yeah.
Like Infinity War, Endgame, just the Captain America movie, the first Avenger. I know the first Avenger is like, you either love the first Avenger or you hate it. But
all three of those are 5-star movies. Don't at me.
Yep, you're cooking, man.
Those are movies that like you can never change my opinion on them. They'll always be just great movies, let alone comic book movies.
Yeah, I agree. It's like you like get on any form of social media. It's like, because Falcon and the Winter Soldier wasn't good, are we ready to admit Civil War was bad? Like, sorry, did you watch the same movie that we watched? Like, are you like blind and deaf? Come on.
like to me, it just really feels like a different franchise. Like that old Marvel, when they like had a plan set out for what the future was going to be, that is the MCU. That's comic book movies. But like the newer stuff is just like, I just look at it as like slop that they're just trying to get out, hook people in, make some money. It's not out of passion anymore. And those ones that are out of passion, like that's what comic book movies can be.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. Well, I agree to an extent, I guess. Like, I'll be the first to say that I enjoy pretty much every Marvel movie more than the average person, more than like a fan, just because like in my mind they're so special to me. And like, I mean, it got me into reading comic books, which is like my second favorite hobby. And so I'm like, oh, a part of me is like, oh, like, I didn't really care for something like She-Hulk. I didn't care for the majority of it at all. Yeah. But then there's people online that have read a number of like infinite number more She-Hulk comics or know more about her than I would. They're like, no, it's very true to the character. I'm like, okay, maybe it's just not for me. And I think that's part of my issue with like critiquing a lot of comic book movies is like, okay, so like Multiverse of Madness isn't very well written, but dude, I freaking love that movie.
I
Like, I'll turn
love
it
that
on
Yeah,
movie.
I like that
all the
movie.
time. It's
I
so much
love
fun.
that movie.
Sam Raimi just makes it like incredible. But then like I have friends that will say it's bottom 5. Like, at what point?
Bottom
and that's,
5
like,
is
hard.
crazy.
It's crazy, dude. Have you seen Thor: The Dark World, man? Like, come on. At a certain point, for me at least, it's like I like to talk and like critique about movies. At a certain point, it's like, okay, so at what point do I just kind of admit this thing isn't for me, or this thing is bad? I think that's like a totally different conversation that we just had, but I think that's like something that I've been thinking about with a lot of Marvel stuff recently, even though a lot of people don't like it now. But.
So while we're talking about comparing the old to the new, let's segue very quickly into Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in comparison to the original trilogy. And Carter and I will not be discussing spoilers in this episode because Kyle has not seen the film yet. But next episode we will be doing spoilers because Kyle will have seen it by then. So Carter, without giving any spoilers, what did you think about the film?
Hey, I am not responsible for the Challengers spoilers last week.
We all did. We were all spoiling Challengers, but I'd seen it 3 times by then. It's fine.
We were about like 20 minutes into that, and it completely
20 minutes into
my
that
mind.
conversation.
Yeah, and Carter's like, I guess we're into full-on spoilers. I was like, I guess we are.
That's fine. It's all right. Yeah, sorry to get on a completely different tangent, but Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, like I mentioned before, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, one of my favorite blockbusters of all time. And War, I think, is really good too. I just rewatched War last night. I think, here's the thing, is the planet... going into Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, you can't expect like a classic blockbuster like something like The Fall Guy or I don't know, like Top Gun Maverick, where it's like just super likable characters and dramatic action scenes. To me, the Planet of the Apes movies, and this could just be like a personal opinion, they've always kind of stood as more of, character studies and like more interested in themes and world building over, hey, look, there's this crazy like monkey riding horses shooting machine guns, which does happen in Dawn, but it's not like the focal point. Like there's so much going into all these movies to where it's not, gosh, I sound like such an idiot. It's not like a classic summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
And so during Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I kept having to remind myself of that. And while I do think that, like you said, comparing it, I think I like it better than Rise. I don't think it's as good as Dawn or maybe War. That being said, I still liked it. I thought it was great. I liked the dynamic between the main trio, between Noah, is it Raka? Raka and Nova. I liked the dynamic. I do think, and this is where I'm like, I can't spoil. I do think that the second half of the film kind of loses its footing with the writing, the balance of characters, and the story beats.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that all in all, the original Planet of the Apes trilogy for me, with Kingdom, is kind of untested. Like for me, it's not close. Now, don't get me wrong. I did enjoy Kingdom. I see the summer blockbuster potential in it, especially once again, like I said, seeing a full theater is always incredible, especially at the early access screening, not even opening night. But I think that, much like Carter said, I think it just kind of loses itself in the second. Now, that there's some CGI in the third act that is fucking phenomenal. The CGI in the entire film is incredible. I will not take that away in the slightest from the film. It was very good CGI. Cinematically, it was gorgeous. The sound design was very good. There were just a couple of things that I feel like I definitely wanted to be better. I feel like there were a couple of plot holes that kind of pissed me off, and there were a couple of decisions made that were uncharacteristic of whatever character it was supposed to go with, or the relationship that character may have had with another character. So that was where I was kind of like, that's where the film kind of lost me. I think I ended up giving it like 3.5 stars. On rewatch, it might go up, but I doubt it. And once again, that's not even saying it's a bad film. It's just not at all what I wanted it to be.
I agree. I think with the Kingdom, at least, whereas with like Dawn and War, it's so easy for me, at least, and this could just be like, maybe I'm just not smart enough to figure it out, but with Dawn and War, it's so easy to see the themes play into it and like where they're going with the characters. Like when a character makes a choice in Dawn, you see and you know exactly why. Yeah. And when characters make choices in the third act of Kingdom, I was like, why did they do that? So I think it just, at a certain point, technically and visually, like you said, it's a technical masterpiece. It's incredible. Like everything about it looks so good. The special effects look phenomenal. Pardon me. But yeah, I think just some of the creative and narrative decisions in the third act didn't quite do it for me.
Now let me ask, have either of you seen what I think to be the best Planet of the Apes movie, the 1968 one?
No.
Oh, all right. Because I was gonna say from all the trailers that we've gotten, it looks so far, I think, the closest to the 1968 one, and I'm just wondering if, with how much I love that movie, if I don't know if I'd be more into this one, go into it, I mean, expecting it to be very similar, because there are a lot of parts from the trailer when you compare them to the 1968 movie, it's pretty much that movie, but with better special effects, it looks like. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if I'd be more, I don't know if I'd like it more if I like that movie, but I'm just interested to see how my expectations in comparison to that movie play out with it.
Now, Carter, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there were some parts that I saw in the trailer that I never saw in the movie. And I didn't get up to use the bathroom or anything, but I promise there were some parts where I was like, never heard that. That didn't happen. I don't know if it got cut out or what.
I think maybe I'm trying to think, because I remember having that same thought, but I cannot remember what shot or sequence it is.
It's the part where he was like, apes hunting humans is wrong, and then I never saw that happen in the movie.
Yeah,
and I was like,
I think you're right.
It didn't even what.
He says something is wrong, but he doesn't say that at all. No. And I think, Kyle, kind of answered your question. From what I know about the original Planet of the Apes, I think you might appreciate this more, whether or not you'll like connect and enjoy it. But I think that having that prior knowledge, I think you will, especially because I try to stay away as much as possible. I mean, when you go to the theaters, as much as we do, there's only so much you can stay away from. Yeah. But for the most part, like, I didn't even know who the cast was. I knew it was directed by Wes Ball, and I knew it took place a little bit after war.
300 years? 300 years later?
I did not know that until I was in the theater. And so I think you might. I'm really trying to like dance around what I'm saying. I think you might.
A lot of like just the small things from the trailer, really, when you see like the apes kind of, I guess, hunting the humans, lassoing them, pulling them to the ground or whatnot. That's just like, those are kind of things like, I guess, avoiding some spoilers for the 1968 one too, if you wind up watching it, but it's like, those are just some things in it that it feels super similar to the apes finally, have control over the humans, and they're really like not humans anymore, you could say. They're more like, I'm
not going to answer any of these questions because I'll spoil
I'm kind of just rambling on right now, but it seems like, you have that one from the trailer, once again, you have that one smart human amongst everyone else, and that's kind of how 1968 is, I guess. But I mean, that's all I got walking the line of spoilers.
I will. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle. There's a sequence where I don't know if it's the original, but where the humans or apes are in chains walking along a beach, right?
Yeah,
in the originals.
I
swear I've seen it before.
In
that visual looks so familiar in the film.
I do remember in connection to that. I remember that part from the newer trailer for Kingdom and whatnot. Yeah. But just like the overall like beach theme of it too, you see a lot. This I feel like you could answer. I feel like this isn't a spoiler. Do you see like a lot of the oceanside like beach area? Yeah, that's kind of like that sounds eerily similar to the original, very original ones.
Okay. One more.
I know people hate on the Jake Gyllenhaal one, so I'm scared to watch that one. But
no, I don't think I'll ever watch those ones.
There's a Jake Gyllenhaal one.
Is that like the one that's directed by what's his name? Why is it
Tim Burton? I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, the Mark Wahlberg one. I've seen that one. It sucks. I saw it when I was like 11, and even then, I was like,
"You see, that's how you know I've never watched it. I didn't even know if it was Jake Gyllenhaal or Mark Wahlberg, but I knew it was ass either way."
Dude, Gyllenhaal could be in it. I don't know.
I have no interest in finding out.
Yeah, I watched it so long ago.
I have no interest in finding out.
One more thing I just thought of about Kingdom is there are some characters I wish, and I think you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, Aiden, Kyle, when you see the film, you will too. There were characters that I wish had more of a presence.
Yeah.
For sure. To where, whether that's posters, trailers, marketing, or just like kind of how the film leads you to believe, I wish that some more of the ensemble characters had more of a presence, because I found myself really invested,
caring about what happened to them. Yeah,
really interested in two of them in particular. Like one in the first half, one in the second half, where I was like, this is so like interesting, the way either like the actor portrays the character, their dialogue, just their outlook on this like world, so interesting. And the movie doesn't really do anything with it. And I think that's where my biggest frustrations come from in the movie overall. I think I'm really trying to like cut myself back.
That's all we're going to do for today so that we don't accidentally spoil this podcast. So thank you for watching episode 2 or listening to episode 2 of the Big Screen Banter podcast. We'll let the guys say their closing comments, and then we'll see you guys next week.
I'll be back with a full spoiler talk of Kingdom, and I don't know, I'm hoping I really like it. Let me ask this, let me end on this. In the end, would you say you were disappointed with it?
No. Well, no.
Okay. In some ways, you were disappointed.
But not like slightly, but not in the way that I would say don't go watch the film. I definitely still think that it's a film that deserves to be watched.
Yeah, I'll still be there.
Yeah.
But I think I'll be back with full spoiler talk.
Oh, yeah. I think just to add my 2 cents to that question is in the manner of like my opinion of Dawn and War, was I disappointed? Slightly.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of like a summer blockbuster movie or a movie overall, no. I think is a good way to put it. Just because in my opinion, those two movies are on another level of quality over most of the stuff that we get during the summer. Next week we can have a full spoiler discussion. So if I didn't give enough away this week, then I'll give even more away next week. So...
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Just remember, we're on anywhere where you can listen to your podcast now. This week, hopefully, we'll also be on YouTube. The video got a little jacked up last week, and that's why it was audio only last week. We're also on TikTok and Instagram at Big Screen Banter Pod, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.